Oh, it's breezy this morning. That's alright, I'm still going to do more videos. I'm up here at the up here on the hill above my house at the windmill projects, looking at these beautiful windmills, an alternative form of energy that we have to start developing. A lot of people are complaining about these projects. They're saying, wow, they're ugly and all that, but I'll tell you what, we could have coal plants spewing out their horrible pollution out of their smokestacks. This is the cleanest, purest energy there is right there. And in their own way, there's incredible beauty in all those windmills using the natural resources of the earth to give us energy. Idaho may be behind 20 years, but I'll tell you what, in this department we're ahead as far as I'm concerned. That's a fantastic thing we're doing here. Oh, my nose is running. So some of you may wonder, what are you doing standing up in a field talking? Well, I'm making a video, of course. I've got some more information on the analysis of Matt Brown's book on the Mormon endowment and Freemasonry that I'm going to talk to you about today. One of the interesting assumptions that Matt Brown holds in his book on Masons and Mormons, he's discussing this is in his chapter, boy it's windy, Return to Mount Zion, chapter 5. He's discussing the idea of the theory that Joseph Smith took ritual elements from the Freemasons in order to create the LDS temple ceremony is principally founded upon the concept of time. He says that on page 85. He notices several ideas in the Revelations to Joseph Smith about the priesthood of Aaron, the ancient temple priesthood of the Levites, the idea of the priesthood that will be conferred upon the kings in ancient Israel when they were initiated in the temple precincts on Mount Zion. He's trying to show the biblical precedent of the revelations of Joseph Smith to the endowment instead of to Freemasonry. And I don't disagree with this idea that Joseph Smith received the endowment by revelation. What Matt Brown is trying to assume is that it is totally revelation and there was no influence from Freemasonry in any manner. And that's where I think he misunderstands some things. He says sometime in September 1830, this is on page 87, Parley P. Pratt was traveling on foot, preached the gospel to a group of non-Mormons. The sky was without a cloud, and he said he saw a sudden brilliant light shone around him, and he saw three distinct geometric shapes before fading away. Parley attributed the origin of this vision to the Lord and identified the symbols that he saw as those known only to the wise. And later on, that's been interpreted to be the squares and the compasses. And that doesn't bother me, but Brown is trying to show that there is no Masonic influence. It all came by revelation. He says, in 16th of February 1832, Joseph learned about three increasingly more glorious kingdoms or degrees of existence, DC 76. And when you read that magnificent revelation, there's nothing about the endowment in there, however. Brown is trying to assume that Joseph Smith received the endowment by revelation and he had the complete ceremony and all of the themes and the ideas through the decade of the 1830s in his revelation, and therefore he had no need to have any influence from Freemasonry. I believe Joseph Smith did receive numerous revelations through the 1830s, magnificent revelations, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he could use the vehicle of the Freemasons, which he became one for 8 weeks before he gave the full endowment in Nauvoo, to teach the endowment. Brown seems to labor under the mistaken assumption that the grips, the signs, the tokens, the penalties, the 5 points of fellowship, the veil, the apron, the clothing, and all that, he's thinking the symbols of the endowment are the endowment. And I've already expressed how Greg Kearney has shown that that's not the endowment. That's the way the endowment is taught, through the signs, allegories, and symbolisms, precisely as it is done in Freemasonry. And Joseph and the brethren knew this, even though they received the endowment principles through revelation, which I also advocate, yes. But that doesn't nullify the Freemasonic influence, like Matt Brown is trying to show. And he's assuming it threatens the divine revelation aspect of the endowment if Freemasonry rituals were incorporated into the endowment to teach the principles of the endowment. I honestly don't see that. But then I'm a biased Mason and I'm a biased Mormon. So that's how that works. Then he says on June, this is on page 89, and I'm just skipping, you can read this for yourself, it's okay. On 1st of June 1833, the Lord indicated through revelation that he would show the pattern for constructing the Kirtland Temple to 3 individuals. This would be a house of endowment, instruction, and prayer, as well as a site where the saints could make an offering, so on and so forth. During 1833, he was working on his revision of the text of the Bible. In relation to the Mount Sinai experience, which has a definite temple backdrop, that's a modern day reading back onto the information. I doubt Joseph Smith thought that. He wrote, the Lord said unto Moses, hew 2 stones of tablet, and so on and so forth. Then he shows, over on page 90, near the close of 1833, Elizabeth Taylor had a remarkable vision. She saw a man sitting upon a white cloud, clothed in white from head to foot. He had a peculiar cap. It was revealed to her that this was Michael the Archangel. In March 1834, the first presidency of the LDS Church, continuing lengthy epistles to congregations scattered abroad, notice the saints who became members of the Church of the Firstborn are to receive white linen clothing and a crown, to be made kings and priests, be seated upon the Lord's throne to reign, and also be admitted into the heavenly marriage feast. So the idea of an exaltation is being revealed. But none of these revelations contain the endowment. They're all generalities, which is proper as they should be, because the really ritualistic aspects have to be done in a place set apart. That's why you have Masonic lodges and Mormon temples, because there are lots of things we do in public, but there are some things that we do in the sacred places. That's how I would interpret all this. The year 1835 saw the introduction of the concept of eternal marriage among the saints in 2 forms. In January 16, 1836, the brethren were washed with water, so they may attain a state of perfection before the Lord. They had covenanted to be faithful to God. They had a washing ceremony. It's very interesting how he shows the Kirtland era information. Brigham Young noted, and he's assuming that this is the endowment, and of course, the information at Kirtland, the endowment concepts they had at Kirtland, was not the full endowment. And these are some of the main differences between the LDS endowment and Freemasonry. Well, I would advocate that, sure. We are never, and have never said, and will never say, that Joseph Smith simply stole the entire Freemasonry ritual and incorporated it and made the endowment out of that. But that doesn't nullify the fact that he did incorporate Freemasonic elements in the endowment. He most certainly did. So, the idea of the Kirtland, and Brown notices this on page 92. Brigham Young noted that the ordinances performed in the Kirtland Temple were only some of the first, or the introductory, or the initiatory ordinances preparatory to an endowment. They are but a faint similitude of the ordinances of the house of the Lord in their fullness. That's true. He makes a big deal about all of these ordinances at Kirtland, properly as he should. His intent is to show that there's nothing like this in Freemasonry. Well, I will agree with that. But his assumption is, this proves that there's no Freemasonry in the endowment. That is what I disagree with. He does not establish that.